As the morning sun spilled golden light over the bustling city of Rome, a young Julius Caesar stepped into the lively streets with eyes full of curiosity, ambition, and a spark of daring that seemed too bright for someone his age. Merchants arranged baskets overflowing with figs and olives, craftsmen hammered bronze into smooth, shining shapes, and children darted between crowded stalls with shouts of laughter. Caesar walked through it all with a thoughtful gaze, absorbing everything: the voices, the energy, the possibilities swirling around him like colorful threads waiting to be woven into something extraordinary. From an early age, Caesar loved stories of heroes, conquerors, and brilliant thinkers. He sat at the feet of tutors, leaning forward eagerly as they read tales of great generals who crossed deserts, kings who outwitted rivals, and leaders whose speeches stirred nations. His imagination soared with every word. Wax tablets filled with careful handwriting piled up beside him, each one holding bold ideas, curious questions, and dreams he wasn't yet brave enough to speak aloud. Even as a child, Caesar believed the world was far bigger than the walls of his home and that someday he would be part of shaping it. School lessons sharpened his growing mind. Caesar practiced reading and writing with determination, carving neat letters into wax while imagining he was drafting important laws or recording great victories. Teachers taught him philosophy, mathematics, and the art of persuasion. He recited poems with a steady voice, debated with classmates about justice and leadership, and studied the history of Rome with shining eyes. When others grew restless or distracted, Caesar stayed focused, sensing that knowledge was a powerful weapon, not heavy like a sword, but sharper, more precise, and capable of changing everything. At home, he listened carefully to conversations between elders, discussions about elections, alliances, rivalries, and the delicate balance of power in the Republic. Caesar absorbed every comment like a sponge, his mind racing with observations and strategies he kept quietly to himself. He noticed how the calmest voices often carried the most influence, how carefully chosen words could smooth conflicts, and how confident, steady, unshakable had a way of opening doors that fear kept closed. These lessons shaped him in ways no wax tablet ever could. When Caesar walked through the Forum, his imagination fluttered wildly. Senators debated with sweeping gestures, crowds gathered to hear speeches, and statues of Rome's greatest figures stood proudly beneath the sun. Caesar darted glances at their stern, sculpted faces and thought, "One day I'll stand here too, not as a child watching from the edges, but as someone whose voice matters." The dreams felt daring, impossibly large, but they didn't frighten him. Instead, they lit a fire in his heart that only grew brighter. As he grew older, Caesar trained for the physical demands of Roman life. He practiced running and climbing, lifted heavy stones to build strength, and honed his agility with wooden swords. Soldiers marching in formation fascinated him, their discipline, their unity, the rhythmic beat of their boots echoing through the streets like thunder. Caesar imagined leading legions across distant lands, guiding men with loyalty, bravery, and ideas that stretched beyond simple orders. While others saw war as danger, Caesar saw strategy, purpose, and the chance to push the boundaries of what Rome could become. He learned, too, that Rome was not just a city of marble and markets, it was a place alive with hopes, disputes, and ever-shifting currents of power. Caesar watched how people reacted to unfair laws, how leaders gained support through kindness or crushed it through arrogance. He noticed how the Republic, for all its greatness, often stumbled because no one dared challenge traditions that no longer worked. These observations planted tiny seeds in his mind, seeds that would someday grow into big plans, bold decisions, and changes that would ripple across an empire. Even simple walks through Rome filled Caesar with inspiration. He saw crowded streets where poor families struggled to buy bread, wealthy nobles riding past in polished carriages, and hardworking artisans creating wonders with their hands. Caesar wondered why some lived so comfortably while others struggled, and he began questioning how a leader could help balance such uneven scales. Though still young, he believed Rome deserved fairness, opportunity, and vision, not just routine and old rules. When visiting relatives in the countryside, Caesar found new kinds of inspiration. Rolling fields of wheat swayed like golden seas, farmers guided oxen across rich soil, and small villages bustled with simpler rhythms. Caesar admired their hard work and wondered how a city so mighty as Rome could better support the people who fed it. He asked questions adults didn't expect from someone so young, questions that revealed a mind already scanning the horizon for possibilities others failed to see. In quieter moments, Caesar studied alone beneath lamplight, poring over scrolls filled with speeches, victories, and philosophies from distant worlds. He memorized the bold words of great thinkers, copied strategies of legendary generals, and scribbled his own notes in the margins, tiny sparks of ideas that would one day shape his destiny. The soft glow of the lamp illuminated his focused expression, and even the flickering shadows on the walls seemed to whisper encouragement as he worked late into the night. Through every lesson, every observation, every day spent exploring the heart of Rome, Caesar's ideas grew sharper, bolder, more daring. He began to realize that true leadership wasn't only about power, it was about vision, responsibility, and the courage to change things others thought unchangeable. With each passing year, the fire inside him burned brighter, pushing him toward dreams that stretched far beyond the familiar streets of his childhood. As he stepped into adolescence, the world around him felt like a giant puzzle he longed to solve, one made of people, laws, traditions, and hopes. Caesar sensed that Rome stood on the edge of enormous potential, waiting for someone determined enough to reshape it. And deep inside, he felt an unshakable belief forming like a strong stone foundation. One day, I will help Rome become greater than anyone believes possible. But for now, he was still learning, still watching, absorbing, and dreaming. His journey had only just begun, yet the ideas already stirring within him promised a future filled with bold choices, daring adventures, and transformations that would echo across history. Under the warm glow of late afternoon, young Caesar found himself standing on a quiet hill overlooking the rooftops of Rome. The city stretched beneath him like a living tapestry, threads of noise, color, and movement woven together into something grand and endlessly shifting. He breathed in the scent of dust, olive oil, and distant cooking fires, feeling the pulse of the city thrum through him like a second heartbeat. In that moment, he understood something simple yet powerful. Rome was not just a place he lived in. It was a place he belonged to, and someday, a place he hoped to guide. As seasons changed, so did Caesar. His mind sharpened like a blade honed on a whetstone, carving away childish uncertainties and replacing them with growing confidence. He began helping his family with responsibilities, reading documents, and watching how adults navigated disagreements with grace or, occasionally, with stubbornness sharp enough to spark fireworks. Caesar observed everything, storing lessons the way a librarian stores precious scrolls. Every argument, every handshake, every whispered conversation in a shadowed hallway became a puzzle piece in the larger picture forming inside his mind. When he accompanied his father to public gatherings, Caesar stood quietly at the edges, listening to the voices of men who shaped the Republic. Some spoke boldly but lacked substance, others whispered truth that few dared acknowledge. Caesar studied their gestures, their tone, the subtle ways they influenced the crowd, and he imagined how he might speak one day firmly, clearly, in a voice that carried both knowledge and heart. He wondered what it would feel like to stand before thousands and win their trust through nothing more than words woven with courage. But Rome was not always peaceful nor predictable. Tensions stirred like wind before a storm, rising from rivalries among noble families and the weight of traditions that sometimes clashed with new ideas. Caesar, still young but perceptive, sensed these shifts. He saw how fear could cloud judgment, how pride could turn allies into enemies. These observations taught him something essential. Leadership required not just strength or ambition, but the wisdom to see beyond the moment, to look years, even decades ahead. In the bustling markets, Caesar continued to learn from ordinary people. Merchants haggled loudly, farmers traded goods with tired smiles, and laborers shared jokes while lifting heavy baskets. Caesar admired their resilience, their creativity, their ability to thrive even in difficult times. He asked questions that caught them by surprise, questions about their work, their needs, their hopes for the future. Though they didn't realize it, their answers shaped the foundations of Caesar's ideas about fairness and responsibility. To him, every Roman mattered, not just the powerful few. Festivals brought a different kind of lesson. During lively celebrations, music poured through the streets, dancers spun with ribbons trailing like comets, and families laughed beneath strings of brightly colored lanterns. Caesar watched how joy united the city, how strangers shared food, children from different families played together, and even stern-faced senators allowed themselves a moment of delight. It struck Caesar that unity was not built only in assemblies or battlefields. It was built in these simple, shared moments that made people feel connected. Rome's spirit, he realized, lived not just in its laws, but in its celebrations, its kindness, and its collective heartbeat. As he grew physically stronger, Caesar trained with older boys in athletic fields, pushing his limits under the watchful eyes of instructors. He wrestled, practiced shield formations, and learned to stay calm even when faced with tough opponents. Sweat dripped down his face as he practiced day after day, each drill shaping him not just into a stronger fighter, but into someone who understood discipline. Caesar discovered that true strength wasn't loud or showy. It was steady, patient, and paired with a mind that stayed cool under pressure. During evenings, when the sky turned violet and crickets began to sing, Caesar often climbed onto the flat roof of his home to think. The stars glittered above him like tiny fragments of hope scattered across the night. Sometimes he whispered quiet promises to himself, promises to work harder, to learn more, to grow into someone worthy of Rome. The dreams that had once felt distant now flickered closer, as if the stars themselves leaned in to listen. His mother, Aurelia, played a powerful role in shaping his heart. She spoke softly yet carried a presence stronger than most men Caesar knew. She taught him compassion, resilience, and the importance of honoring one's word. When Caesar struggled, she didn't solve his problems for him. Instead, she guided him with gentle wisdom that nudged him toward independence. Greatness, she often said, begins in the small choices no one sees. Caesar held onto those words like a secret shield, drawing courage from them whenever doubts crept in. As political tensions grew within Rome, Caesar began noticing the fragile threads holding the republic together. He listened to arguments about inequality, land disputes, and the growing divide between the wealthy elite and ordinary citizens. These issues troubled him deeply. Even as a teenager, he wondered why laws changed so slowly, why some voices went unheard, and why leaders couldn't agree on solutions that benefited all. These questions lit new sparks in his mind, sparks that would one day fuel reforms, alliances, and bold actions that shaped history. His curiosity reached far beyond Rome's borders. Through traveler stories, Caesar learned about distant lands with towering mountains, lush forests, and cultures rich with traditions. He dreamed of exploring them someday, not simply as a visitor, but as someone who could bridge worlds, someone who could bring new ideas back to Rome and expand its understanding of the vast world beyond its city walls. These dreams danced in his mind like colorful banners fluttering in the wind, encouraging him to keep learning, keep striving. Even friendships played their part in his education. Caesar laughed with boys his age, debated with them, competed in races, and shared bread beneath shady porticos. Some friends admired him for his sharp mind, others teased him for being too serious. But Caesar appreciated all of them because each friendship taught him something: loyalty, trust, forgiveness, and the importance of standing by those who believed in him. These values rooted themselves deeply in his heart, becoming guiding lights he would carry throughout his life. And yet, Caesar also experienced moments of loneliness, quiet pockets of uncertainty when he wondered whether his dreams were too big, too bold, too impossible. During those times, he'd pick up a scroll about past heroes who had faced doubts of their own. Reading their stories reminded him that every great journey began with a single, trembling step. The doubts never disappeared entirely, but Caesar learned to walk with them, letting them sharpen his determination instead of dimming it. As he approached adulthood, a sense of purpose blossomed within him, steady and unshakable. He no longer saw Rome as merely a city filled with noise and marble. It was a fragile, complicated masterpiece in need of vision, fairness, and courage. Caesar felt the weight of that responsibility settling on his shoulders, not as a burden, but as a calling. Something deep within him whispered that the future of Rome would someday hinge on choices he had yet to make. He didn't know the battles ahead, the triumphs waiting beyond distant horizons, or the challenges that would test every part of him. For now, he remained a young man with restless ambition, a heart full of fire, and a mind honed by curiosity and compassion. But the path before him stretched wide and bright, illuminated by the dreams that had grown with him since childhood. And so, with each dawn that broke over the rooftops of Rome, Caesar stepped forward learning, preparing, and quietly shaping the leader he would one day become. His story was still in its opening chapters, but the world was already beginning to feel the first soft tremors of a destiny that would echo across centuries. His journey, bold and unstoppable, was only just gathering its strength.